the president talking about arresting the governor of California, one Gavin Newsom, who's like freaking out. Oh my gosh. I mean, he reminds me of AOC. Remember she was sending letters to the DOJ, Pam Bondi, are you going to arrest me? You're going to arrest me? It's like she wants it. Oh, well, this is certain to put Gavin right up onto the national platform so that he can take Donald Trump on and, you know, make a martyr of himself, this, that, and the other. Anyway, then we go to the soundbite that crossed yesterday afternoon. We played it on the shorts feed. I'm going to show you, of Donald Trump saying, yeah, you know, I might be okay with that. Gavin, I like him. He's a nice guy, but boy, is he doing a terrible job. And if he's going to stand in the way of federal law enforcement trying to do their job, well, he's going to have a problem. The California governor has been daring Tom Homan to arrest him. Trump was asked, what do you think? Should he?
Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing.
Okay, really hard to hear. I know he was outside. There was a helicopter in the background. And so I just want to go back and just paraphrase there. He said, yeah, hey, I'd do it. Gavin, he really likes the publicity. He's a nice guy, but he really likes the publicity. Yeah, he really likes the publicity. He's out there on TV, MSNBC, of course, pleading, Mr. President, have some respect. Come on.
Where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it, I'll say it again, it's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk.
Oh, Gavin. He's scared. Actually, he's really not scared. You know what he really is? An opportunist. All of these people are total opportunists, and they're saying, oh, well, okay, we can ignite this. We can sort of just, and suddenly Gavin will be catapulted into the same category as AOC. Remember her, AOC, who said, Pam Bondi, are you going to arrest me? Who went on to NPR saying, well, I am concerned that Tom Homan, when he says he's going to arrest me, you know, and he's referring me to the DOJ, I want to know, I want answers, and I haven't gotten any answers. So here's the short answer. Gavin, no, that's not going to happen. I mean, it could happen if you really, really want to get in the way of the feds, but I don't think they want to give you that sort of grander status. I don't think they want to actually put you in any way on the same playing field as one President Trump. But just think about what the narrative is, right? This is very, very political. Okay, they are using this for all it's worth. They like to say, Trump thinks he's king. Well, how about like the protector in chief? How about the guy who's like, I'm not going to allow these rights. And by the way, you guys have seen the video. It's awful. Okay, you've seen it all. We don't have it here. We don't need to play it because you can get that somewhere else. It's violent. I don't like it. It is bad stuff. So there is a reason to be concerned, and California ought to do its job and make sure that it's not allowing those protests to continue in a violent kind of way, but it doesn't seem to be stepping in. So yeah, you're sending the National Guard. He just announced 2,000 more troops, right? So grand total of 4,000 plus the 700 Marines on the ground. And the congressman from California, Garamendi, says, this is all about him just being king. Listen.
And taking control of the National Guard, federalizing it, and saying he's going to double the number of Guards members who are here on the ground. In your mind, do you think this is just about immigration enforcement and creating law and order, or is there something else going on here?
Well, clearly there's something else going here. As was just reported, the LA police and the sheriff's department have the situation under control. The federalization of the National Guard and then bringing in the Marines is something different. This is about Trump pretending that he is the king of this nation, that he has the ultimate power and authority to do anything he wants to do, regardless of law, regardless of tradition, and regardless of the tradition of the state governor in California and every other state really controlling their own National Guard.
You know, I hate to remind him, but there is a reason why the federal government feels very strongly that they need to come in at this particular time. And they're trying to prevent this from becoming too chaotic. And they have the power to do it. You see, there's this little thing called Title 10 U.S. Code 12406, federal statute, which allows the federal government, i.e. the President of the United States, to call into federal service members and units of the National Guard in such numbers as the president considers necessary to execute the laws of the United States. So that's a biggie. And you know what else? You've got the power to call up the National Guard, again, through Title 10 U.S. Code 12406, which allows for the federalization of the National Guard units to enforce federal powers, to protect federal property, even when state officials don't request it. National Guard does not, however, have the power to arrest, so that's interesting. They would have actually needed to use the Insurrection Act, but that's a way higher legal sort of bar to get to. So they went with the easier option here, which enables them to at least get out in front of this and try to protect people. And so, if you look at also what their motivation is, I think it's also in part the optics, right? And the Wall Street Journal accurately pointed this out today, that the Trump administration is hoping some of these news reports and other publicity about its tough enforcement actions will actually prompt immigrants who are in the country illegally to leave the U.S. voluntarily. Migrants have been offered a $1,000 payment if they document their departure. So in other words, they're trying to clean house the nice way. And they're also trying to send a message, right, to people that you're not necessarily welcome if you have an illegal status, but we will help you exit the country and we will pay you. We will pay you to exit the country. But, again, there's this question of, well, how can they possibly do this? What about state rights and all of this? And what I would just go back to is, one, they do have the power to call up the National Guard, again, Title 10, U.S. Code 12406, and then you can get to some of the constitutional powers, guys. And we've been through some of this, of course, because you have so many people that aren't familiar enough. It's disappointing with our Constitution, but you do have lots of constitutional powers that actually afford you the sort of supremacy, if you would, including the supremacy clause, okay? So again, I see a comment and some generous super chat here from Chunk. Did I get that right? Chuck, forgive me, Chuck. Thank you so much. Appreciate your generosity. Great to have everybody here, by the way. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, comment, all that good stuff. We are live, so I see it all in real time. Watch out. Constitutional basis for federal power over immigration. You get the Naturalization Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. Okay, the Congress shall have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Well, this is important because this is Congress. Okay, so even though you got Garamendi on there, the congressman Democrat from California, going on to CNN saying, oh, he thinks he's king, No, he's actually just enforcing the law, okay, as it stands. You're in the Congress, Garamendi. You are welcome to try and change the law. And if you change the law, then it would be his duty to enforce that. You've also got the constitutional basis for federal power over immigration through the Commerce Clause, right? We've talked a lot about that. When you have interstate commerce, that's when the feds come in and they are supreme compared to the states. So Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, the Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. Immigration is interpreted as being part of this. Again, the Congress could change this. But so long as they don't, then yes, the executive branch does have the power to enforce federal law. You also have federal power over immigration through the Necessary and Proper Clause. You have the Migration and Importation Clause, goes all the way back to 1808. And you've got, we can go on and on, the Foreign Affairs and National Sovereignty Implied Powers Clause. And this one actually got challenged specifically vis-a-vis immigration out in Arizona as recently as 2012. And guess what? The Supreme Court made it very, very clear that the feds had the power. So if California is not willing to play ball with ICE, and now you're in a situation where it has ratcheted up to possibly a dangerous situation where you have riots in the street that are not really as controllable, right? Or as peaceful as one would like to think, or as the left would like to think. Well, then you're running into a situation where the federal government feels that it needs to intervene and bring this sort of law and order. But, that's not going to stop everyone from saying, and I think that Trump has to be very careful of this, right? This is politically a little bit of a tightrope. Because I think as long as people see what's going on and they know what's happening out there, they're going to recognize that you don't want this to spin out of control. You think about, what happened in previous times when these things have spun out of control and you've had to jump in and put federal law enforcement and National Guard on the scene. It's happened, by the way, Rodney King, right? 1991 or 92. This has happened before, and they don't want to spin it forward to that level or escalate it to that level. So they're jumping in sort of ahead of the fact, and a lot of people don't like it. So politically speaking, yes, it's divisive. And this is why Donald Trump and his administration are walking a little bit of a tightrope. But a lot of people think, and you look at that video and you see the chaos, a lot of people think, well, wait a second, this is why we elected him. Look at the new CBS News poll that just came out just yesterday, actually, where they were showing overwhelmingly the country supporting the deportation, certainly of criminal migrants. So all of this is heating up, guys, in a very big way. And it's a high stakes sort of gamble, frankly, for both sides, because, Gavin can sit there and say, oh, it's all A-okay, and we don't need the federal government coming here. Have some decency, Mr. President. What are you going to arrest me? Tom Homan, you're going to arrest me. They can ratchet it up that way. And frankly, you know what? They're going to have the mainstream media on their side. But I would also caution that you don't want to jump in there and do things unless you need to. I think it has risen to the level, again, judging by some of the things that I've seen and the unwillingness of Los Angeles and Gavin Newsom to do anything. Let's face it, guys, they never do. They never do. I mean, look at the fires, for goodness sakes. That was a mess. That was a travesty. And you know what? Karen Bass is off in Africa to be at some event over New Year's and doesn't even have the decency to be there with her people during a really difficult time. Had to fly back and was pretty darn embarrassed about it. Remember when they asked her questions and she just went into like mute phase? She couldn't even talk. She wouldn't say anything. So there's a lot at stake. The View is all over it. They're saying, like, what's happened to state rights? They're getting their talking points straight from the Democrat Party. Watch.
Now, is it warranted, or does this sort of escalate the situation? I mean, whatever happened to states' rights? I thought that was what you do, because you tell the state, this is what we're thinking of doing. You don't just send people in. You don't just send troops in. But what do I know? I've never run a state. But I don't really, when you come in and when you go into the donut shop to look for people and you're dressed in tactical gear, you're creating an issue. You're creating a problem. You want people to come, you've scared them. Even when people are supposed to be there, when they come to talk to the judge, you're arresting them right after. What is going on here?
I think what really matters from sort of a long view here is the fact that he is militarizing and deploying the Guard for the purpose of policing Americans' protest activity, right? Our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly. And there's a very big, stark demarcation between military troops and law enforcement, public law enforcement, civilian law enforcement. Right. And you are an army turned inside to police its citizens can cause chaos, fascism. And so I think...
Okay, so this is like the moment they've been waiting for, right? Let's be really clear. The moment they've been waiting for. This is what Whoopi's been warning of ever since ahead of the election. And now they're looking at a situation in California where these protests are spiraling out of control. Gavin Newsom doesn't want the feds there. The feds feel that it's important to be there and that they can help secure the place and that they can help restore law and order. And so now suddenly it's turned into God knows what, right, over on The View.